So an official welcoming and hi from my side to everyone. See you back, or nice to see new faces. So welcome back to this online workshop about diversity and inclusion. As mentioned last week, this online session, these online workshops, as the other ones that are organized, are part of a European project, including several countries, several partners, called iBOX. We can give a few more details about it later on at the end of this workshop. And so nice to have you here. I hope you're all doing well. And as we did last week, we propose you a 2-hour session to broach the thematic of diversity and inclusion by exploring the basics of those concepts, and also to present some concrete practices, whether it's tools, projects, events, methods, things that are basically made to foster inclusion and of several types of publics and to foster diversity as well. We would like also to give you the opportunity to share your own insights, experience, and analysis, and reflect on your own approaches in your field of intervention on the subject of inclusion, diversity, what kind of publics you're working with, what kind of issues you face, etc. So the idea is to share experiences together that we can get inspired of and that can give us ideas or principles that can be transferable basically to other situations, realities, countries, etc. The principle here is to meet as much as possible your expectations. So in the previous modules, we had a small time when you could express your expectations or your motivations to be here to follow this session about diversity and inclusion. So we'll try to have some inputs, but also sometimes to exchange. As said earlier, this module is divided into 3 sessions of 2 hours. So last week, this week, and next Wednesday at the same schedule. So for today, what I propose you is to, yes. So today's agenda, what I propose you is that we, first of all, we would have a small recap of last week's sessions to be on the same, to start on the same basis. To complete what we did last week. So last week we jumped into the notions of diversity and discrimination and the underlying mechanisms of discrimination. I'll come back to it. We'll have a small recap about it in a bit. So here we would, I would complete this, the part about discrimination with explaining the legal framework existing in Europe, to have some references about what are the core text laws, conventions that exist on the international level, but also in Europe, about the fundamental rights of people. We would talk about, would like to get to know more the process of inclusion. So we are talking here about diversity, inclusion. What do we talk about exactly when we talk about inclusion? And to present you a practice from Italy, which would be a concrete example of implementing inclusive approaches. So we would have for this part a colleague from Italy, Claudio Tosi, if we have no technical problem and no unforeseen issue. And this person would be here with us to introduce us the Italian network Scuole Migranti. We'll talk more about it later. And this last part, study cases, will be depending on the time we will have left. If we don't have sufficient time, we would postpone this part to the next module next week. And of course, we would have a 10-minute break around 1 p.m. So coffee break or sandwich break or whatever break you need at 1 p.m. So about 10 minutes. And during this break, Claudio will join us. That's the menu for today. A quick reminder of the instructions that Veronica already made and put in the chat. Please keep the microphone muted if you're not speaking. If you want to take the floor, ask a question, make a remark, you can do it at any time. Feel free. And it's nice to have camera turned on to see the faces and the people, but if you're not willing to or not able to, this is not a problem, of course. And Veronica and Cecile will be here to help me manage the technical part and put the information and links in the chat. And as mentioned, the session will be recorded for the plenary room at least. So before we start this session, I would like to propose you a small activity. And for this, ideally, I would need everyone to have the camera on, which is almost the case. For those who cannot have the camera on, we'll find a way. The principle is simple. I will propose you a small game, very short, very simple. Principle is simple. I will name a color and we will have to grasp an object in your surrounding, on your desk, anywhere around you. You have to grasp an object that is from this color. Okay? You can use cats. If you have cats, it's accepted if they're treated right. So for instance, if I say green, you grasp a green object and you put it in front of the camera. If you don't have camera turned on, you can try to find an icon, a green icon in the reaction icon of the chat and put it on your mosaic. Great, thanks. If I say white, okay, thank you. So it's quite simple. It's a bit too simple. I would complicate it a bit. I will ask you to name a color in your mother tongue, in your language. For instance, if I ask Ruxandra to name a color in your language, we'll have to find what color it is and to find an object.
Okay, roșu. Nice.
Thank you.
Great.
Bahar, can you name a color in your own language, please?
Do I need to choose among some colors or
You
it's
take the
same?
color you want and you say it in your own language and we have to find out what color it is.
Okay, I will tell it in Turkish and then you will guess it. Mavi.
Can you repeat it slowly?
Mavi.
So we have white, we have blue, we have purple, we have pink, gray, yellow. Okay. We have different colors. What would be the right one? What would be the translation in English of this color?
Blue.
Blue. Okay.
Yeah.
Congrats to those who found out blue. And the last one, if I ask Francesca?
Okay, sorry, it took me a while to unmute myself. Giallo.
So are we right? We have yellow, we have pink, we have a lot of yellow. All right, thanks a lot for your participation to this small game. Just to start the session, I'll share my screen again. Okay. So to begin with, first of all, I'd like to make a quick recap of what we did last week. So in the first module, we broached the notion of, last week we started, sorry, I'm admitting someone. We started by tackling the notion of diversity. So what is diversity? What are the various components of and characteristics that are part of diversity? So the concept of diversity is basically the set of characteristics that is part of everyone, every individual, and that shape who they are, like age, gender, physical ability, social background, etc. So those characteristics, of course, for some of them, they are inborn and at the core of each individual, but others are acquired and shaped a long time by the environment people are raised in, or can be also the result of personal choices. So to present this notion, we use a tool called the Loden's wheel that helps conceptualizing the different layers and the unique set of diversity components of each individual, and that builds basically one's identity. For some of them, they are immediately visible and obvious, of course, but other remains concealed, hidden at first underneath the surface, like an iceberg. We bridge the thematic of discrimination that comes along with diversity, mostly, unfortunately. So discrimination is the unfair or prejudicial distinction between people based on their characteristics or the categories they belong, may it be factually or supposedly. And we also talked about the different forms of discrimination, the three main forms of discriminations being direct, indirect, and systemic. So we have it detailed, and you can find the slides of last modules, of course, where we detail those. And we took, talking about discriminations, we took the example of France, and the 26 criteria or grounds for discrimination that are officially recognized and punished by the law in France. We also mentioned in the concept of intersectionality, intersectionality being the interaction and cumulative effects of several types of discrimination that are based on various aspects of individual identity. And intersectionality gives way to a unique form of oppression, or at the opposite, of privilege. This is a concept that was introduced in the late 80s by Kimberly Crenshaw, who was a lawyer, feminist activist at the time, and she developed this concept theory by observing the discrimination experienced by Black women of poor neighborhood, of social working class, and developed the theory of the cumulative effect of several forms of discrimination that some people may face. We also explore the mechanisms of discrimination, notably the stereotypes, so the oversimplified beliefs that are widely held about a category of people. Stereotypes are, of course, based on assumptions rather than facts and can lead to false or exaggerated perception of others, focusing on certain characteristics. Stereotypes can be either positive but also negative, of course, and they usually make no distinction between people. They ignore individual differences, and as such, they contribute to reinforce biases and prejudices. Prejudices being the preconceived judgment or opinion about someone or a group of people, not based on any reason, experience, or actual knowledge, but just on beliefs on and mostly on stereotypes. So the origin of prejudice are often those stereotypes, and those can lead to unfair attitudes toward others because of any characteristics. The prejudice can be either conscious or unconscious, and typically reflects the bias or discriminatory thinking that some people may carry. So the key takeaways of all of this is that diversity covers the multitude of ways individuals differ from one another and shaping their identity. To acknowledge diversity means valuing each person as they are and consider them as valuable contributors. And in order to value diversity, we need to take into account the fact that there are characteristics that might be lying beyond the surface level and that might need some more digging and knowing and reflecting and questioning before judging, of course, or evaluating a situation. And discrimination arises from unfair distinctions between based on characteristics like race, gender, religion, age, etc., and are fueled by those prejudices and stereotypes. And of course, discrimination may lead to exclusion. To complete this part about discrimination, just want you to have a quick look on the existing legal framework, meaning that in the recent history, fundamental rights of people have been stated and established by different major international texts, law, conventions. So here are a few of them. We have, of course, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the United Nations. So dated from 1948. We have the European, which is one of the core texts that states the fundamental human rights. We have the European Convention on Human Rights that was adopted by the Council of Europe in 1950. We have the European Social Charter that was signed by also the Council of Europe in 1961. We have the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. That one is long. Adopted by the UN, United Nations, in 1965. And we have the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union that was signed, adopted by the EU institutions and the member states in 2000s. To illustrate those laws and how they can be applied, I give you two concrete examples of two legal cases that basically apply or try to apply those laws and those principles. Two legal cases in which discrimination has been recognized by the European Court of Human Rights. The first case is Limenos versus Greece from 2000, where the ECHR, the European Court for Human Rights, held that Greece had violated the Human Convention of Human Rights by excluding someone part of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and this person was excluded from certain professions due to his refusal to perform the military service in direct link with his belief, with his religion. And the judgment established that the principle established that there was here a discrimination based on religion or belief, which is prohibited under the convention. The second case takes place in the Czech Republic and dates from 2007. And this is a landmark case that addressed discrimination against Roma children in the Czech Republic. The situation was that the Czech Republic's education system basically performed discrimination against Roma children by and violated the European Convention of Human Rights by segregating those Roma children in special schools for children with mental disabilities instead of the normal school systems. So the Czech Republic was, there was a judgment against Czech Republic in this legal case in 2007. Additionally to these existing legal cases, sorry, the European Commission has adopted since in the recent years several policies or strategies to strengthen Europe's commitment to equality, such as a gender equality strategy, an anti-racism action plan, a Roma strategic framework, strategy for the rights of LGBTIQ persons, and a strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities. There's some of key examples of additional strategies and laws that were adapted in Europe. I put the links on this slide, so you have the links to those text strategies or to get more info about it, and you of course get the slides. So this is some additional elements that reinforce the legal basis that ensure the fundamental rights of people and that tries to impeach any form of discrimination. If you have any question, remark, don't hesitate to stop me and give the floor or raise your hand on the way you want, but don't hesitate. All right, now let's dive a bit deeper into the concept of inclusion. And to begin with, I would like to know what would be your definition of inclusion. So to know what is your insight about inclusion? What is your experience? What do you intend by inclusion? So with your own words, and to do so, we put in the chat, so you have it on the slide, but we put it in the chat as well. You have a link, and this link leads to a pad on which you can freely write what means to you inclusion. So I give you a few minutes just click on the link and reach out for this pad. And I give you a few minutes to write down your own definition of inclusion, and we'll get back in a few minutes. Okay, is that clear for everyone? Okay. Thank you, Veronica. If everyone has trouble to access the pad or write something in the pad, you can, of course, use the chat. So let's take another minute to finish. For those who are joining us right now, we're talking about inclusion, and we ask you to write your own definition of inclusion, either on the pad, where you can find a link in the chat, or directly in the chat if it's more simple to you. And we're back in a minute. Thank you. You can, of course, continue to write down in the pad or the chat without problem. I'd like just to open the floor for a moment and have an exchange with you. Will someone explain its own definition of inclusion, or just complete what you write? I can share the screen. So feel free to take the floor and give us what you intend by inclusion, what you wrote down. You can complete what you wrote as well. So the floor is free. You can take it, and just to have this moment of exchange with you following this, following you writing down your own definition. So we have on the pad equal access to resources and education. Everyone has access to equal services and opportunities, and is provided the means they need to achieve the same goals as others. Equal rights. All people have life and rights to live, ensuring that everyone can participate in equal conditions. Same opportunities for education and access to resources. Equity, valorization of diversity, access, join different nationalities. So among what you wrote down, you want to add something? Is there something that you read that you want to add something on, or you don't agree? I don't know. Please feel free.
I can share actually my experiences. Actually, I was a science teacher, and I was working for deaf students and actually hearing impaired students in a special education school in Turkey. It's like 8 years. So we have national exams in Turkey when you want to study in a university. You have to pass an exam, but it's always the same for every student. So if you have a disability, you also have to pass the same exam. So what we prepared, what actually we propose, some extra time for special education students. It's not an equal access in education, but something we try to do. And also we ask for interpreters to use sign language in the exams.
Thank you, Cécile. Does anyone else want to share an experience or say something basically about inclusion? Francesca, please.
Hello. To me, inclusion is everything that was said so far, but also flexibility. I mean, based on my own experience as a disabled student and based on my studies and on my work experience, I came to the conclusion that there can be no inclusion without flexibility, because flexibility allows to respond to everybody's own characteristics and needs, and a one-size-fits-all approach can just not work in an inclusive way. So you need to be flexible. You need to allow for different means or for different ways to do things. And this is not only about, for example, disabled students, even though it is often brought up when it comes to disabled students, but this is, as I think Veronica was saying, this is also about individuals. We all have different personalities, different ways we do things, different experiences that shape our ways of being. So yeah, I think to be inclusive, any system must be also flexible.
Thank you. Yes, there's this expression that says it's not about giving everyone a shoe, it's about giving everyone a shoe that fits, and meaning taking into account, of course, the special needs or realities of each people. And about what you said, Cécile, so what were the strategies or solutions or methods to try to resolve or to get over this problematic or issues?
Sorry, can I get the question again?
The situation you mentioned. So what was there? What was the strategies or support or alternatives that was that could be found or that exist to adapt and to respond to those issues?
Yeah, actually, the only solution to come from the Minister of Education was an extra time for students. Like they add 20 minutes more for all exams, which actually needed. And about the sign language, it's actually accepted 8 years ago as a language. So we always fight for it because sign language is the mother tongue of deaf students, but it's never seen a language, and they don't have proper books or lectures, etc. So now they have, in the last 5 years, it's a bit actually good, but still have a lot of missing points and gaps between the mainstream and special education schools. So I think it will take time, but I think we are also in a good point now.
Thank you. Means basically creating environments where all individuals, regardless of their background, identity, abilities, characteristics, personal traits, where all people feel welcome and are welcome. So inclusion ensures, or is the way to ensure that everyone has equal access to opportunities and resources, and that by inclusion, you foster a sense of belonging to all people, whoever they are. So, but inclusion would be an outcome that acknowledges that each and everyone needs are met and ensures that all people, whatever the background, feel valued for who they are. And we could give as a as a short description of inclusion, that it basically removes barriers. It's about removing bias and barriers and putting the threshold as low as possible to eliminate any possible barrier of participations to people, and to allow for them a full engagement and contribution for all members of community, for all individuals. So to ensure the conditions that give them way to engage and to be recognized as such. So when we talk about inclusion, we often talk about integration. So we usually have some sort of confusion or a use of both words that are taken synonymously. Those words, integration and inclusion, are often used falsely synonymously, but the underlying concepts of those both concepts differ significantly. When we talk about integration, we talk about usually assimilating individuals into existing structures or systems. We aim for them to fit within the mainstream society. That would be integration. So as we see, just to depict those icons, those are famous icons that we use when we talk about those concepts. We have integration like we have this main sphere, and within this sphere we have this small circle of people that are together between them, but are not mixed with the ones around in the bigger spheres. Whereas inclusion, in contrast, focuses on transforming those structures and systems to accommodate diversity and to ensure that there's an equitable participation for all individuals, regardless their differences. So it would be this bigger sphere, but with all the dots, all the color dots mixed together and without any distinctions or separations. So when we talk about integration, inclusion, of course, to complete those notions and to envision what's at the opposite of the spectrum, we have to also talk about exclusion and segregation. So what are segregation? What is segregation? What is exclusion? On one hand, we have segregation. That means that we create separated spaces for those who differ from the norm or are considered differing from the norm. So we have this main area, this main sphere, this main society, so to say, and we have beside it this extra area, separated space where people are not are put aside, basically, and not mixed, not accepted in the main sphere. Exclusion would describe the state where those who are different from the norm are not allowed to participate. So they just basically excluded of the circle. They're randoming around, but there's no dedicated sphere. There's no integrated area. There's just excluded and not part of the bigger group, so to say. So of course, when we talk about inclusion, basically, we also have to talk about equity. So the concept of inclusion is, of course, more than goes way beyond the integration. It transcends mere integration, and we're more about a model of society where every individual has equitable access and opportunities to resources. So the concept of inclusion is intricately intertwined with the concept of equity as an ideal to reach out. When we talk to inclusion, we have to talk about equity. So what is equity? Basically, what does it mean? Equity means that we give all people the access and resources they need to succeed, like the shoe that fits. We take into account the special needs and the realities of people. So we adapt the resources. We don't give the same access and resources. We try to adapt it. So it considers the the specific needs or the circumstances that a person or a group is facing, and provides the type of resources that are needed actually to be successful. So what would be the difference between equity and equality? When we talk about equality, we talk about giving everyone the same access and resources, regardless of circumstances, realities, despite any inherent advantages or disadvantages. And this is something that applies to everyone. So same treatment, regardless of the needs, and not taking into account inherent differences. It's like giving the same bike to people from different sizes and ages. It just doesn't fit. It's not adapted. So the difference with equity would be that with equity, when we talk about equity rather than equality, we recognize that people do not start from the same place, and that we have to tailor the resources and opportunities to individual needs. So that we have to take into account, acknowledge the diversity characteristics, the condition of the people, their realities, their abilities. We have to take the person as a whole and not just think in terms of standards, but rather in terms of flexibility, as was mentioned, as adaptability. So it aims to have fair outcomes and to address specific circumstances, to address imbalances. This is what would equity be about. So we can basically say that equality versus equity is like sameness versus fairness. We have on one side identical treatment, whereas if you have an identical treatment, it doesn't necessarily result in fairness. And then we talk about equity. In contrast, we research, we seek fairness, and we try to have a recognition of this disadvantages, the realities. We try to consider the characteristics that are inherent to every individuals. So when we talk about those two terms, we try to, it's important to understand the difference between both, and it helps identifying and responding to differences in personal situations, and to respond to cases, to situations where that could be unfair for someone or for a kind of group. And when you are able to identify those unfair situations and try to address them, it's important to know that you can have a power of change over them. And this is an important aspect of the social inclusion process. So inclusion means thinking also in terms of equity rather than equality. So equity and inclusion go hand in hand, and as inclusion requires addressing the challenges that people face through equitable practice, and rather than expecting individuals to adapt to existing norms, like integration, like with the equality thinking approach, inclusion emphasizes the need to adapt environments, the policies, the attitudes, the physical access to a place, for instance. It's about thinking differently and thinking in terms of adaptation to fit everyone and to embrace diversity. And at the end, we can ensure this way more sense of belonging for people. Don't hesitate to interrupt me if you have any questions or remark. To continue on this notion of inclusion, sorry, the concept of inclusion originates to the 1970s. And at this point, we had collectives of citizens, we had initiatives that were created and that demanded full and equal participation in social life for disabled people. So the concept of inclusion takes its origins to these first movements in the 70s, with in mind the situation and the challenges that were encountered by people with disability. And in Europe, during the recent history, the debate around inclusion was pushed forward by two landmark documents. The first one being the Salamanca Declaration in 1994. This is a declaration that was adopted at the World Conference on Special Needs Education in Spain, in Salamanca. And in this declaration, it is reaffirmed that all individuals have the right to education, and it emphasizes the importance of inclusive education as a mean to achieve this goal of education for everyone. So in this declaration was basically a call for fundamental changes in educational policies and in terms also of practices within educational systems. And the idea was to accommodate the diverse needs of learners, including those with disabilities, and to promote the principles of more inclusive schools within the regular educational settings that existed at the time. So the Salamanca Declaration has had a significant impact on beginning to shape international perspective and policies regarding the more inclusive education. The second landmark document is the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities from 2008. This is here an international treaty aimed at promoting, protecting, and ensuring the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by persons with disabilities. This convention sets out specific rights and principles to guide member states in the process of eliminating discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and to ensure that that we have a full inclusion, and that we have the tools and ways to have them participated in all aspects of society. So in this convention, we address various areas, including accessibility, education, employment, health, and participation in political life. In this this UN convention was in the history and the development of inclusion in the countries. It was a substantial step towards recognizing and upholding the rights of persons with disabilities on a global scale. So those are two important documents that brought some changes and adaptations in the policies and in the systems of countries. So of course, when we see this, when we shift from a notion of integration, when we shift of a way of thinking in terms of integration, and when we go towards more inclusion, it reflects a positive and broader societal recognition of diversity and the importance of creating environments that are suited to everyone. Do you have any remarks or questions about this part, about those notions, about equity, equality? Do you have any feedback, remarks, question?
I will just want to say thank you for this, presentation discussing this concept in the same time, because I think we usually in our work, at least myself, I found myself in situations when we have a problem, let's say linked to diversity, we try to find a suited solution, a fast one, to get them to be included, but we don't actually change the whole system. It's difficult, and I think it's so easy to think that okay, we have this problem, let's find how can this type of profile match in our actual procedure, for example. So it was really interesting to get your presentation, get us to understand all these concepts, and I think it's really interesting to see them in parallel and not as individual concepts. So it's just a little remark to say that I was finding it really interesting as approach. That's all.
Thank you. I would be interested to have insight or feedback from situations in your countries regarding the educational system, for instance. How did he develop, progress towards this more way of thinking, inclusion rather than integration, adaptation versus norms and standards. Do you have any examples of how it's of situations of your country, for instance, at school, comparing with a few years ago, a few decades ago, I don't know, how it developed in that direction?
I can explain a bit, because our education system has different types of paths that you can choose. It can be a special education school, but I cannot say it's an inclusion. So it's a specialized school for special disability, like special school for deaf students, special school for blind students. And the other way, it's more inclusive. In a mainstream school, with the regular students, you can also follow that path. Or in a mainstream school, in a different class with your peers, it is another option. So actually, it a bit depends on the parents. And I don't know, sometimes we talk with the parents and we said, okay, this inclusive approach is not actually fits with your student. And a special class would be better, maybe in few years, and then you can follow the other path. But always we have discussions about this. And the second thing that we are using is an individual education plans for each student. So at the beginning of each year, we have a questionnaire, I can say a survey, and then we try to identify the needs of the student. And then we prepare a special plan for the student in each lecture, like in science, in maths, in languages, and then we follow that path, and we have special exams for actually parallel to their individual plans. This is how we are actually try to make the inclusion in mainstream schools.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, I can
Yes.
share the situation in Italy, even if I'm not sure. So if there are other Italian people in the room that want to correct me, but as far as I know, I think that in Italy, with another approach, that is to have teachers supporting the students with special needs and disability while they are attending the main training in the classroom with other students. So we don't have a specialized school for people with disability or special need. They are in the same classroom as their peers, but they have some teacher that specifically support them.
If I can just add onto this, I'm Italian too. And yes, this is true. I have to say that I'm a bit critical towards the Italian system because in my experience, a lot of Italians who work in the education field or disability field, they like to say, oh, Italy is so advanced because we closed down the special schools, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, inclusion does not always work out as planned. I mean, what Italy did was maybe revolutionary decades ago, but now, well, I feel like it struggles to keep up with the new developments. And as a student with disabilities, as a student with a disability, it's sometimes hard to actually feel included, like to feel like you belong to the classroom, because yes, you receive support. Yes, you have a teacher aide if your disability is severe enough to have a teacher aide. But nothing is like at a policy level, if you read the policy documents, they emphasize a lot the community dimension, the class dimension. So inclusion is a process that concerns everybody. It's not just about placing the disabled student in the classroom along their peers. And they also emphasize that the teacher aide is supposed to be a support for the entire class, not just for that one kid. Because everything comes down to the process of building inclusion. But actually, in my experience and what I also know from what I read and from the people that I spoke to, it's not always like that. And actually, often, especially students with severe disabilities, they are isolated, like they are physically in the classroom, but they don't really have friends, particularly when they are older. They tend to be more included during kindergarten or primary school, but then in secondary school, not anymore. So yeah, this is what I feel about Italy and what it is like in Italy. I just wanted to add on to what was already said about the country.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thanks a lot.
I want to add something more that Francesca said. Actually, I totally agree with you because I've worked a lot in the field, and there's another missing part is actually teacher trainings about this topic, and they don't know how to approach the student when they come to inclusion. Okay, we are talking about too much, but actually teachers are a lack of this information and training. So this is another part of the inclusion process.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, it comes with training also people and give tools to be able to react and know how to adapt oneself. It's 1:05. I propose you a 10-minute break. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had time for a coffee. And I hope you're not too much hungry as well. This is the problem with training between 12 and 2, but I hope you'll manage. Thank you for being back with us. I'll give the floor in a minute to my colleague Claudio from Italy. As introduced at the beginning of this module, our idea here would be to have a presentation of a concrete practice that involves inclusion of publics and taking into account the needs of some particular publics, and to do so, to get one example of practice from Italy. This is one practice that we valorize in the compendium that was produced, which was produced within the scope of the iBOX project. And this project targets young or adults with migrant background. And the idea is to organize network of teachers and school to provide those people language courses. So we wanted to share with you this this project, this initiative, and to talk about it. I asked Claudio Tosi from CESV Lazio, with whom we we work a lot on the seminar level. And before giving the floor to Claudio, sorry, who can tell more about this project, I propose you just to watch the small introduction video. You have the link. You will find the link in the slide, of course. I will share my screen. I hope this will work.
I can try to share it, Falaviano, if you want.
Scuole migranti. Scuole migranti è una realtà plurale, una rete di oltre 100 associazioni no profit che insegnano la lingua italiana a migranti di prima e seconda generazione. Ogni associazione è libera di scegliere come e dove agire. Il principio della gratuità è un approccio formativo che deve semplificare una persona migrante e accompagnarla a inserirsi nella società. Della lingua è arricchito con attività sportive, cineforum, laboratori espressivi, teatro, gare di scacchi e tanto altro. Le scuole mettono in contatto gli allievi con servizi legali.
The link to this introduction video. So this initiative, this network is called Scuole Migranti, which is an Italian network, and I'll give the floor to Claudio Tosi to talk about me a bit more. Claudio.
Thank you to all. And yes, when Flavian asked me to show you some relevant initiative about migrant and social activities in Lazio, that is the region of Rome, I
think we lost Claudio.
Association that are both public and private. So you have school for adults, paroisse, social activists, and that are all together working for this aim, that is to give a real welcoming to the people that comes to Italy and try to get into our society. As you know, maybe you know that school is being the school right. All the kids that comes, even if they come during the year, they have to be taken into the schools. And but this is a problem for teachers that have 30 children, 25 children in their class, and because people from Egypt or Bangladesh or whatever, they come and so the school doesn't have a system for this, and volunteers come and are engaged into and in touch with the school to help give these young people a name to get into the language. But then there are a lot of schools for adults that comes to Rome, both because they want to stay in Rome, but mainly because they need documents and they have to be they come easily to Rome and to find this kind of services. And so this network not only teach Italian, but also gives a series of services to orientate the people to get what is their right to obtain. So I would say also I am involved in some of their activities. We have services to help them have the paper, the documents, to help them get into the sanitary system, because also in Italy it is free and it is accessible to all, even if they don't yet have all the documents they need. And this is a very important social action, because mainly for women is so important to have a place where to learn Italian in a way that also take care of their condition, that easily is to be mother. So not only the school, but also a place where to keep their children. So schools for mother, schools for women have also places to have the children, to host the children, to give them things to do, to play, to be comfortable. And this help the mother to comes out of their houses. That is especially for some culture not so easy to obtain. So we also have we take care of a discussion with the community to have this to let the women be open to the society and to get to school. It is very important that these schools, so they from only teaching Italian, we started to do cultural things, both to make migrants meet important places. We have this we also we go to the house of the president of the republic every month. They open the gardens, they open the house of the president, and the migrants are very interested.
Claudio is frozen.
Sometimes they know more than many Italians. And so this is one side to let
Claudio,
them get
sorry,
in touch.
Claudio.
Yep.
Maybe you're frozen sometimes. Maybe can you just deactivate your camera so we can still hear you, and might work better. Thank
you to let me know. Yes, and I will. I can talk under 5 minutes, and then if there are questions.
Yes, I put on the presentation that I shared a slide with some figures and key information about the Scuole Migranti network.
To the culture of migrants. And so in our schools, we try to have theater or art or expression, and we organize moment in which the migrants' productions are shown or shared with the local community.
I would have one question. So I put on the slide the number of locations where this can. Claudio?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. There is this slide with the number of locations where you can where this network is implanted via associations or volunteer teachers and so on. Maybe can you explain how and when this network was created and how it functions, how it works, basically?
Can you repeat? I didn't get what you said.
I was just asking maybe if you can explain or give more information about how and when the network was created. Who created the network? How long for how long it exists? Just to complete the presentation.
Okay, so the network started in 2012. It was the conclusion of a long period of contacts with all these schools, because the schools are both run by Catholic people or like people. And so it was an important agreement that put all this together, and it was hosted and helped by the CSV, the volunteer center, service center. So is a structure, is still another volunteer organization, but is like an umbrella organization that gives help to the volunteering organization in Lazio. So we hosted the network Scuole Migranti in the office of CSV, and helped them with the site or this kind of services. but the network since 2012 has an organization by itself, and also offer a rich program of training for the people that want to teach Italian to migrants, because is a very important it's very important to know not only the language, not only what you want to teach, but also the people that you will have in front of you. And so there are methods, and there are attention and way of doing the things that are important to be teach to the teacher. And so the network also gives this important help to all the volunteers that want to be helpful for this, for having a real structure of welcome to the migrants. So many, as you see, many are in Rome, but Rome is very large, and now it has become an important now is a stable organization, and we are also in touch with other region in Italy as an example of network. Okay, I don't know if you have questions. Maybe now I should have a better connection. Maybe I can. And this slide that you are showing gives the umbrella CSV and then Scuole Migranti. And what we want is to be near the society, near the community. So there are schools that have 1,000 students in the year, other that have 50 students, but all of them are important because they are near the countryside, where many Indians workers are often without a language, are more spoiled, exploited than as you can read in the paper. And then the local where the schools are run, they are also places where we exchange culture, and so is a very important mean of understanding for the local community. And then with the institution, the work we do is to get in touch with all the problem. There are a lot of problem also for in the field of the work, because without documents now you cannot even have a phone in Italy. And the new law of the right-wing government is very strict on the is trying to reducing the rights for people that has not all the paper. And so we fight with the police, with the questura we make an advocacy for all the things that the institution should do, and if they don't do, the life of the people is worse. And so we make we continuously bring to the institution the problem that the institution itself make bigger, and we try to make it simple. Is it
Thank
okay?
you. Yeah, thanks a lot. I would have one question regarding finances. How are you financially supported by some institutions, or how does this network work financially? How can you get some fundings for to run this network and to organize those courses?
Okay, that is a very important question. Many of these ONG are completely volunteer. So when you have a place that where you don't pay the rent, like in a church, the people that do the teaching, they give their disponibility, and that's it. I mean, normally, if we do, as I said, social or cultural activities, these are like evening with theater, and then eating dinner together or whatever. The money we do are go to buy books or paper or the material for the school. Where you don't have a place in which you
You're muted. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
The problem is double, because you also have to find a way to pay the rent. So as CSV, we also run program with some of these organizations that are often very small and sometimes not structured officially, if you want. They can also be in squatted places, so they cannot have financing in these places. And we participate to grants that are that there are some grants for teaching Italian. And normally what happen is that you have money for one course, and you make 10, like that. I mean, people that are in these programs share what they have with the other, with the group, and that makes things goes on. But is a real you must think of this as a real political action in a situation in which migrants has to stay low, and they should stay low and without asking for rights. That is what happened with this government. So in a few cases, when we go to the public school that do school for adults, then you have naturally you have teachers that have their work, and normal work, and they do some of these action, but public schools only do the 35% of the courses that we run. And that is mainly because they work in hours, structured hours of a normal teacher, and that are not the hours in which many migrants can go to school. So the schools are run in the evening, in the morning, in the Saturday. What we during school hours, so the kids are in school and the parents can come, especially for women. These are all the strategy that the network has put in action to have the opportunity to really meet people in need of a language course.
Thank you, Claudio. Is there any questions or a remark? I'll open the floor to the other participants. If you have question, remarks about this network, about this initiative, about the context in Italy in which this network has been developed, any question, any remark, feel free.
Yeah, it's always very important for a people that speaks about something if the other have questions about what he said, so he or she. So if you have questions, it will be a pleasure for me to answer.
I have a question, Claudio. I was curious about how you coordinate such a big network, because there are a lot of organization, volunteer base involved. So,
well, there is, as I said, thank you, Veronica. As I said, there is an assembly and a CA, un direttivo. I don't know the words in English.
a steering
And
committee.
what?
A steering committee.
Okay, steering committee, yes. And they meet every month, and the what is the most important thing is this training that the school gives one to the other, because there are the biggest part of the teachers are Italian teachers in retraité,
Retired.
retired. So they have sometimes a very strict way of choosing the right word, and the grammar is. But what we ask them is to get into a relational language and not just a formal one. And so these trainings are very participate, and they give the network a common goal. A common goal. I think that more than the steering committee is the training that gives all these different people a way of acting that make them feel the sense of being of Scuole Migranti grows with this. And it's very interesting now. For example, there is all this Afghan migration that has been done by a lot of artists, and so we have a lot of also storytelling, no, from people that comes from other situation, and they tell us what was their experience. And so we also go in the school for to have this sharing of stories and consciousness of situations that are very unthinkable from the situation we have in Italy. And that is also a good thing that is required, and that makes the people in also the migrant children or the children of migrant family that are Italian, that are born in Italy, but that are always looked at in a certain way, to feel more to think that their culture is recognized and welcomed, and that is very very important. We have a lot of this in the city in Rome. So is also this cultural aspect that is important now.
Almost more. Thank you a lot, Claudio, for your presentation explanation. If there's feedback or remark, the floor is yours, or questions as well. And if not, I can release K. It is 10 to 2. So I won't be launching another activity right now. I was thinking of a possible study case activity where we would work in smaller groups. We won't have time to do this. I had two scenarios. Either we have time to do it or not for this session. I prefer to give more time to Claudio and for possible questions about this network project in Italy. So I propose you that we postpone this activity, and before we close here this module, so we have a few minutes ahead of us, but what I would ask you right now, I'll share my screen again, is that for the next module, I hope you'll be able to attend it as well next week. So Wednesday, same schedule from 12 to 2 p.m. For the next module, I'll be asking you to reflect on a situation, meaning a situation that you can share where the question of inclusion was raised. It means a situation where inclusion was challenged, where a group of person, a category of public was concerned by maybe a lack of inclusion, or where this inclusion of people were successful because there was some tools, methods, adaptation, there was some things that make it work, or something that was, in your opinion, problematic. So you can share something that is either, let's say, negative or something positive, but I would like just for you to think about a possible situation, something that you encountered, experienced, or someone that you witnessed. And in this situation, we have to have a place, a time, and a person or a group of persons. So it have to be a real situation, and at the end, it has to raise a concern or a questioning to you. So something that you may be ready to reflect on and maybe to share with others as some, like, let's say, personal study case, not personal to you, but something that you bring yourself. So this is this would be your homework for the next module, just to think about a situation, and we would have time on the next module to let's say to work on it. So next week we would be mostly working on situation analysis based on your practices and on your experiences as well. So this will be more interactive and based on exchange. I hope they won't scare you, but the idea is to reach this part of the training when we have this interactive and living exchanges, and when we can share, when you can share your own insight experiences, because they can be inspiring for others. They give food for thought about how, in similar situation or with similar problematic, how I can adapt myself, how I can act, what are the solutions, what are the tools, what are the methods that I could apply in similar situations. So this is very important also to have this moment of exchange with you and to have your insight. So this would be it for this session. A few more information before we stop today's workshop. I would ask you to post on the chat, to share in the chat one sentence that to you summarizes this module, the experience of this module, this session of this training session, and one thing that can be improved by the next module. So this would be our way of having your feedback and to also adapt ourselves and try to do better. So one sentence, I guess the instruction is, but yes, thank you. So one sentence that summarizes the experience of this module, one thing that can be improved by the next module. So you have this instruction in the chat. And one last information, we will have on the 19th of November in Brussels, a final event, final conference about the iBOX project that will take place on the whole day. Correct me if I'm wrong, Veronica. The link to register to this public events will be given in the chat as well. And during this day, in the 19th of November, we will have, it's open to public, of course, we'll have the partners involved and the lifelong learning platform who will give elements and evaluation and valorization of this project that has been led for the past 2 years. And this would be the occasion to meet the partner organizations that were involved in this project and to also experience some practices and know more about tools developed during this project. The location is not quite set yet, but it will be in a near future, so the information will be spread. And so you're cordially invited if you're able to, and if you're around Brussels, let's say. This is one last information that I wanted to give you. Thank you in any case for being there with us today, for your participation, your contribution. And we hope to see you next week as well for this moment of exchange and for this last module of this diversity and inclusion training session. And I wish you a nice afternoon, a good appetite maybe in between, and have a good afternoon, and let's see next week, hopefully.